Iran and Israel weren't always enemies. In fact, there was a time when they saw each other as strategic partners. Before 1979, under the Shah, Iran and Israel quietly cooperated, a relationship built on mutual interests and shared concerns. This cooperation included sharing intelligence, fostering military ties, and engaging in joint projects that were kept largely under wraps. They were united by common threats from neighboring Arab states, who at the time posed a significant challenge to both nations. This partnership was pragmatic, not personal. It was a calculated alliance based on strategic necessity. It was a necessity in a volatile region, where alliances shifted and survival often depended on finding common ground with unlikely partners. But everything changed with the 1979 Islamic Revolution, a seismic event that reshaped the political landscape of the Middle East. Ayatollah Khomeini's new regime ushered in a completely different era, one defined by a staunchly anti-Western and anti-Zionist ideology. The new leadership saw Israel as an illegitimate outpost of Western imperialism, a symbol of everything they opposed. Hostility replaced diplomacy almost overnight, marking a dramatic and irreversible shift in relations. Iran's opposition to Israel became a core part of its revolutionary identity. It was embedded in its foreign policy, shaping its actions and alliances on the global stage. The conflict shifted into the shadows, a realm of espionage and clandestine operations. This included assassinations, targeting key figures and individuals, cyber attacks, disrupting infrastructure and stealing sensitive information, and sabotage, aimed at undermining each other's strategic capabilities. Israel targeted Iranian nuclear scientists, seeking to slow down Iran's nuclear program. Iran armed proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas, providing them with resources and training. This was done to encircle Israel with threats, creating a ring of instability around its borders. This shadow war allowed both sides to strike, inflicting damage and pursuing their objectives. All this without triggering all-out war, a scenario that both sought to avoid. Over time, every covert operation, every act of espionage, and every proxy clash deepened mistrust, pushing them further apart. The nuclear issue became central, a major point of contention and a source of constant tension. Israel vowed to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, viewing it as an unacceptable risk, seeing it as an existential threat, a danger that could not be tolerated. This bitter history is the backdrop to today's crisis, providing context for understanding the current state of affairs. It explains how a single event could push these rivals, who have been locked in a Cold War for decades, from secret conflict to the brink of open war, a scenario that could have devastating consequences for the entire region. The stage was set for escalation, with both sides prepared to defend their interests. The world watched as old animosities, fueled by decades of mistrust and hostility, threatened to erupt into something far more dangerous, a full-blown conflict with global implications. The road to open conflict, a path fraught with peril and uncertainty, was paved by a bold, very public act. An act that would reverberate across the region and beyond, setting in motion a chain of events that few could have predicted with certainty. On April 1, 2024, a date that will forever be etched in the annals of Middle Eastern history, a suspected Israeli airstrike, a surgical operation with devastating consequences, hit Iran's consulate in Damascus, killing top Iranian military officials, including key commanders of the Revolutionary Guard. The strike was precise, but its implications were far-reaching. For Iran, this was not merely an attack on a building, but a direct assault on its sovereignty, a blatant violation of international norms. A red line crossed, a point of no return in the escalating tensions between the two nations. Tehran's response was swift, immediate, and resolute. Vows of retaliation echoed from the highest levels of the Iranian government, promising a response that would be both decisive and unforgettable. The world braced, holding its breath for Iran's next move, knowing that the stability of the entire region hung in the balance. The US and Western allies, recognizing the gravity of the situation, urged restraint on all sides, moving military assets to the region as a show of force and warning against further escalation, hoping to deter any rash actions. Intelligence agencies around the globe scrambled to predict Iran's response, analyzing every possible scenario and potential target. Proxy attack, leveraging its network of regional allies. Cyber strike, targeting critical infrastructure. Or something unprecedented, A move that would defy all expectations? The answer, when it came, arrived quickly and decisively. On April 13th, a Saturday night that would change the course of history, Iran launched Operation True Promise, a name laden with symbolism and intent. A direct, large-scale assault, an unprecedented act of aggression on Israel. Hundreds of drones and missiles, a swarm of deadly projectiles, filled the skies, marking the first direct Iranian attack on Israeli territory since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. The shadow war, the clandestine operations and proxy conflicts was over. Open conflict, a direct military confrontation, had begun, ushering in a new era of instability. This was a deliberate act of war, a calculated risk with potentially catastrophic consequences, meant to punish Israel for the Damascus strike and showcase Iran's military reach and resolve. The world watched, transfixed and terrified, as decades of simmering tension, fueled by deep-seated animosity and conflicting ideologies, exploded into the open. The countdown to confrontation, a period of anxious anticipation and escalating threats, had finally ended. A new dangerous chapter marked by open warfare and unprecedented risks had begun, plunging the Middle East into uncharted territory. The attack began, a calculated escalation that sent shockwaves across the globe. It commenced with a swarm of Shahed 136 kamikaze drones, a relatively inexpensive but highly effective weapon designed to saturate air defenses. These drones, numbering in the dozens, represented the first wave of the assault. Their buzzing engines filling the night, a sinister soundtrack to the impending chaos. The sound served as an early warning, but also a psychological weapon, instilling fear and uncertainty. Their goal was clear: overwhelm Israel's air defenses, specifically the Iron Dome system, which has proven highly effective against rocket attacks. The intention was to force them to expend interceptors, depleting their limited supply and creating vulnerabilities for the more potent weapons to follow. This was a war of attrition in the skies. Next came cruise missiles, a more sophisticated and dangerous threat. These missiles were faster, flying low to evade radar, hugging the terrain to avoid detection, and increase their chances of reaching their targets. They arrived alongside the drones to complicate defense efforts, creating a multifaceted attack that stretched Israel's air defense capabilities to their limit. The coordinated assault was designed to sow confusion and maximize damage. Then, the most dangerous phase began. Ballistic missiles, the most destructive weapons in Iran's arsenal, were launched. These were Iran's most advanced weapons, capable of carrying significant payloads over long distances with devastating accuracy. They were arcing toward high-value Israeli targets like the Nevatim airbase, a critical strategic asset for the Israeli Air Force. The region's skies became a chaotic battlefield, a swirling vortex of fire and metal. Israeli, US, UK, and Jordanian jets scrambled into the night sky, a coalition united in the face of a common threat. Their mission, to intercept the incoming threats before they reached Israeli territory, a desperate race against time. The fate of Israel, and perhaps the wider region, hung in the balance as they fought to protect its airspace. Sirens wailed across the country, a chilling reminder of the danger. Explosions lit up the night sky, bright flashes illuminating the desperate struggle overhead. And citizens huddled in shelters, praying for safety as the battle raged above. Israel's Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow systems, the nation's layered defense network, worked overtime, firing interceptors at a relentless pace. Each system played a crucial role in defending against the different types of threats. Social media filled with shaky footage of interceptions, capturing the drama and intensity of the night. The skies over Jerusalem and beyond were ablaze with light as the defense systems fought to protect the country. Over 300 drones and missiles were launched in total, an unprecedented barrage that tested Israel's defenses like never before. Miraculously, most were intercepted, a testament to the effectiveness of Israel's air defense systems and the skill of its operators. However, a few ballistic missiles managed to evade the defenses and caused minor damage, a stark reminder of the ever-present danger. The world watched in awe and fear, glued to their screens as the drama unfolded in real time. The Middle East teetered on the edge of a precipice, the threat of wider conflict looming large. It was a night that redefined the region's sense of security, exposing vulnerabilities and raising profound questions about the future. The specter of all-out war felt closer than ever, a chilling prospect that sent shivers down the spines of leaders and citizens alike. Military analysts were struck by the attack's sophistication. Iran used Decoy's missiles with non-explosive warheads or designed to mimic advanced weapons to force Israel's Arrow system to waste expensive interceptors. Some missiles released clouds of decoys or chaff, confusing radar and making it harder to target the real warheads. This shell game at hypersonic speeds tested Israel's defenses and revealed Iran's evolving tactics. The attack wasn't just about numbers, it was about outsmarting the defender. Iran's planners showed they're building smarter, not just more missiles. The arms race in the Middle East is now as much about quality as quantity. Both sides learned valuable lessons for the next round. In Tehran, the attack was hailed as a triumph. Proof that Iran could strike Israel directly and restore deterrence. Officials claimed only military targets were hit, signaling the operation was over unless Israel escalated. The message: Iran had changed the rules of engagement. In Israel, relief at the air defense's success mixed with calls for retaliation. Prime Minister Netanyahu praised the defense effort, but debate raged within Israel's war cabinet. Some pushed for a massive counterstrike, others, under US pressure, urged caution. The question wasn't if Israel would respond, but how. The consensus: such an attack couldn't go unanswered. Both sides weighed their next moves, knowing the stakes had never been higher. The region held its breath. The world reacted with alarm and urgent calls for restraint. President Biden reaffirmed US support for Israel but warned against escalation, refusing to join any counterattack on Iran. European leaders echoed the call for de-escalation, while the G7 condemned Iran's strike and urged all parties to step back. Jordan's Air Force shot down drones, cooperating with Israel out of self-preservation. Saudi Arabia and the UAE quietly shared intelligence but publicly urged restraint, wary of a wider war. Russia and China avoided condemning Iran, blaming the crisis on the initial Israeli strike. The UN Secretary-General pleaded for an immediate halt to hostilities. The region's fragile alliances and rivalries were exposed. The risk of a regional war was clear to all. The world watched, hoping diplomacy would prevail. The attack left the Middle East on edge, fearing a cycle of escalation. An Israeli counterstrike could trigger wider conflict, threatening US bases and global oil supplies. Oil prices spiked, airlines rerouted flights, and markets trembled. Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others were put on alert, risking new fronts of violence. Lebanon, already in crisis, faced the terrifying prospect of another war. The attack showed how one event could ignite multiple flashpoints. The region's interconnectedness and its fragility was laid bare. Everyone wondered, would this be the spark for a wider war or a wake-up call for restraint? Iran's direct strike shattered the old rules of the shadow war. Now, any attack on Iranian interests risks a direct response from Tehran. A temporary coalition, US, UK, France, Jordan, and Israel, emerged to repel the assault, hinting at new regional alignments. Israel faces a tougher deterrence challenge. Covert actions now risk massive retaliation. Hardliners debate preemptive strikes. Others urge caution. The US and Arab states must balance new alliances with the risk of being drawn into conflict. Every nation is rethinking its strategy in a region suddenly more volatile. The Middle East security architecture has been upended. April 2024 brought the Middle East to a crossroads: escalation or diplomacy. One path leads to devastating war, the other to difficult but necessary dialogue. Global powers must use their influence to prevent miscalculation and create channels for crisis management. Addressing root causes, like Iran's nuclear program and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, is essential for lasting peace. The coordinated defense against Iran showed cooperation is possible. The challenge now: channel that unity into building a fragile peace. The future is uncertain, but the cost of failure is unthinkable. The choice between war and peace rests with leaders in Tehran, Jerusalem, and beyond.